You're rude.
You're rude.
You're rude.
And we are live. Welcome to Late Night Madness. Tonight we are talking with Pnoid News. What is up, Pnoid? It's been a while, man. You haven't been a regular guest recently. What the fuck, you cunt?
Well, you
You
kick, yo,
know?
you let one of those cunts in your server kick me the fuck out of your goddamn Discord and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, just because I decide that I want to go in there and call this bitch a cunt does not mean that, you know what I'm saying, I get kicked the fuck out of a server. That is completely and utterly disrespectful because I have helped you out more than any cunt in your goddamn Discord server. For fuck's sake.
To be fair, you did come out and go, let me back in and show me respect or else. Nigga, what?
Yo, I did not say show me respect or else. You put the or else on there, nigga. I said, let me back in and show some fucking respect. I did not say or else. I'm not Scooby, okay? I don't fucking pull that goddamn or else bullshit nonsense. You fucking put me on that level.
Yeah, yeah, Darth Pnoid.
Don't you put me on that level, right? Like, yo, like, nigga, you know how aggravating it is, like, to stand here and watch you deal with these goddamn broads all the time. And I'm like, nigga, yo, you're better than that. For fuck's sake, Mad Dodge, stop it. Like, yo, you had the talent to hold shit down on your own. You don't need thoughts. For fuck's sake, nigga. Yo,
Hey, just because I like titties, bro. Sorry.
I like titties too. You act like I don't like fucking broads. Like, I love women. Get nothing misunderstood, but I ain't gonna let them fuck up my channel. You know what I'm saying? Yo, look, I like dogs, but I'm not gonna let them eat my dinner. I like dinner, okay? Motherfucker, I made dinner for me, not for the fucking dog. The dog gets kibble. That's their goddamn job. Your broad needs to be chained to a radiator. Hashtag Pnoid Radiator 2020.
Awesome. Okay. All right. No, and what up, memes of destruction? I see you in the chat, you Bostonian prick. Um, all right. So tonight we are going to talk about, well, it's going to be an interesting conversation. Yeah. Do you remember Pnoid back in the day, right? When you
Right,
were logging into a porn site, you had to
right.
give them a credit card. Do you know why you
Yep.
had to do that? You had to do
Mm,
that to prove your age verification, right?
yes.
You no longer have to do that. And that's
No.
where the issue is coming up, right? So go ahead. You have the floor, sir.
All right. So a lot of people got upset at me because you know me, I like to troll. It's my favorite thing to do all the time. And I'll be honest with you, trolling libertarians is probably one of my favorite things in the whole world. Mm. Because the left is really easy. But libertarians will literally trip over themselves to continue to spout off fucking like George Carlin lines and shit. And it amazes
Oh,
me.
you're such a prick. That is totally me. God damn
I
it.
know, I know, right? All right, yo, so like I spent the weekend trolling them and I pissed off pretty much the whole goddamn community, right? I upset Sir Adamantine, Jamie Yelling, um, goddamn Sinatra, like Ghastly, like yo, like everybody caught it this weekend. You know what I'm saying? Because
What?
Stompede,
No shit. Like the only motherfucker you didn't piss off was AP. He's like, Pinoid's cool.
yo, AP knew exactly what I was doing. I was like, yo, nigga, watch this. That's right. Because like yo, because Gab basically came out and said that like fucking these motherfuckers should be put in jail for what they're doing, right? And I kind of remotely agree with them, right? Because they're not having any age verification for children anymore. So that means a kid can just basically get on fucking line and watch porn whenever the fuck they want to. And even if a parent puts like a porn blocker on a motherfucking on a tablet or some shit or on a fucking phone or whatever the case might be, and people go, "Oh man, buy your kid a flip phone," because that's what Revenge of the Sis said today. And I don't, man, look here, all right, like yo, fucking number one, go find me a flip phone. Number two, the reality is that fucking we shouldn't have to stand here and protect our fucking kids on that level. And even if you buy them a flip phone, they can go to the crib and use their laptop or use their fucking tablet that they're playing games on, right? And we're talking 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. I personally don't think you should watch porn until you're 25. Me personally,
Well, we will touch upon that. And I think this is the guy you invited, right, Pnoid?
yeah, my brother. What's up, man? Yo, Max, this is my boy, the Mad Libertarian. I can't host from my phone, but he decided he wanted to stream tonight, and I brought up the porn subject, and he was with it. So I wanted you two to meet. You two actually probably would really get along. And that's kind of where I'm at. He's a Roman Catholic. I was raised Roman Catholic. But I mean, I think you're in the church, aren't you?
Me?
Yes, sir. You.
Oh, yes. In fact, I read the Bible with my son and pray the rosary with him every day, and we go to Mass every week without fail. So, and we love our priests. So, yes, I'm very Catholic. Thank you.
Gotcha.
I'm a good Catholic. I'm drinking a beer right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a medical marijuana card, and it's legal here. So I'm not doing beer, but I'm doing other things.
but I mean, but no, that if you're Catholic, you know that joke, right? Like, I'm a good Catholic. I'm drinking wine.
Okay, so wait a minute. Are we on the air, by the way?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yes.
So wait a minute. Mad Libertarian? You're calling yourself a Libertarian? See, I always give Libertarians shit, and because I used to be one, and I'm like, I'm tired of Libertarians mostly. I know there's some decent ones out there, but most of y'all are fucking nuts.
Let me be honest here. He's not a Libertarian. He's a paleocon. He just doesn't know it yet.
Oh,
and he's actually a paleocon in the most literal sense of the word. Like, he hates fucking Abraham Lincoln. He fucking thinks that the South was terrorized during Reconstruction. And he believes in small government and closed borders and conservative values. He's not a libertarian. He's a paleocon.
I didn't know until very recently. Most sane people did not deny that the South was terrorized and crushed during that period. But it's become more and more normal to just paint the whole thing as something it's not. But anyway, no.
I would put it this way. I would go so far as to say I'm a neo-Confederate, not just a paleocon. That's how far I would go.
They're gonna call white supremacist, racist kind of shit.
No, not at all, not whatsoever. Literally, the war was about economics. The war was not about slavery. Lincoln himself said it was not about slavery. So I don't put race into this at all. Matter of fact, I grew up. I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana.
I used to live.
I was raised on the West Coast in Baldwin Park. I got beat up because my best friend was black. I am not racist at all.
No, not at all. And I would say slavery was part of the story, but for most of the men who fought in that battle, none of them ever owned slaves. But in any case, yeah, I used to call myself a libertarian. I kind of wanted to. I still would like to be a libertarian. I just find that the complete lack of values in libertarianism, basically the godless element among the libertarians always just wants infinite porn, infinite gambling, infinite drugs, and doesn't want any responsibility for anything. And
no, I would totally disagree. I believe libertarians believe in the ultimate responsibility. It's the ultimate responsibility to where the government can't protect me from myself. Therefore, if I'm going to be a heroin addict and a piece of shit, that's on me, right? That's ultimate responsibility.
What I find as a real world matter, especially once you go into corporate America or business, what libertarian means is who's ever got the most money, that's the market principles who wins. They got no principles. They got no nothing. It's wherever the money is. That's what I find time after time after time after time after time out of most libertarians. That they're basically people with no values and no morals. And they'll use the phrase market principles to justify anything. Mostly they're just corporate stooges. And that's just how I see the average person who identifies this way. And I see him a lot online, and I've met him in the real world too. And so it's just kind of libertarians leave it. I used to be one, and I had to walk away from them, man. I'm like, there's nothing. I see no consistency in libertarianism on anything except money rules. And
all right. Hey, let me hop in real quick. Like I think the problem really boils down to when you start talking about the Libertarian Party as a whole, right? The ideology of most of the libertarians that are like running the Libertarian Party and are like actual libertarians are the politics of Connecticut and New Hampshire and Vermont and fucking California. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the individuals who think they're libertarian because they like Ron Paul.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and I don't even mean the party either, because I just mean when I meet people in the business world who call themselves libertarians, they are always sharks who will cut your throat. And they have no morals at all. None. And no ethics at all.
Yeah.
None. And when I talk to libertarians about the issue of children, all they can do is talk about children as a liability. And I think that's the ultimate problem of all libertarians, including every libertarian economist who ever wrote. Hayek, Mises,
what? Wait a minute. Are you talking about Murray Rothbard? Are you talking about Tom Woods? I mean,
100% of every libertarian writer I've ever read by anybody is a complete failure on the issue of children. It's why I no longer support libertarians. I do mean Rothbard. I haven't listened to Woods. I mean Rand. I mean Rothbard. I mean von Mises. I mean Hayek. I mean the entire corpus of every economist who ever called himself a libertarian. Complete and total failure on the issue of children. If you've got something for me to look at that I've missed, let me know. None of them.
Well, I am a self-proclaimed libertarian.
Okay.
I am also a father of 6 children.
Good.
And they all live with me. Okay, I don't have kids spread out around the country, right? You can hear them, unfortunately.
I'm talking about the economists, not you. I'm talking about the economists, not you. All their thinkers fail in this regard, as far as I'm concerned. All of their prescriptions, all of their analyses, all of them, they fail. I'm not saying they fail as parents individually.
My problem I run into is the globalist aspect. Like, none of them have any ideologies about nationality or anything like that. They're all just complete and utter fucking open globalist, and that annoys the fuck out of me. And
it's not globalism though, Pnoid. I think you're conflating that with the idea of individual rights. So if you're looking at the tree instead of the forest, then you see the trees individually. Therefore, the boundary of the forest into the city doesn't really exist because you're seeing everything individually. You understand? You can conflate that for globalism, but it really isn't. It's individual,ism.
I'll give you this. There is a whole strain of libertarian thought which is basically inauthentic, which is that just a real grassroots libertarians aren't this way. They just get swayed by what are called the corporate libertarians, who run a lot of the think tanks. A real good article to read and a real good author that I think every libertarian ought to read just to get their hands around, their heads around certain important issues that libertarians should face. It's called Assault of the Corporate Libertarians by David C. Corton, and I recommend his writing in general as very informative. This is not to say I agree with everything, because I don't have to agree with everything to recommend his work. Is very insightful. And he goes into how most popular libertarianism over the last few decades has used free market rhetoric to excuse globalist corporatism. And used libertarian rhetoric and even libertarian think tanks and libertarian publications and libertarian websites to spread corporate globalist garbage through the libertarians. And it's that, and the fact that this has happened is really also soured me to the libertarian label. It's probably why I've become more and more I'm more of a medievalist than anything. Although the funny thing is if you're a medievalist, you're pretty damn close to an anarcho-capitalist. See, you might get along with some libertarians anyway, because I mean it. I don't believe. I think we were all much better off before the fucking Enlightenment. I really do.
Well, when it comes to me, you can ask Pnoid because he knows me pretty well. I am kind of an anarcho-capitalist, actually. I kind of do lean that direction. I'd rather watch the world burn and then rebuild it because it's already fucked. But that being said,
Pnoid Radiator 2020, son. I'm trying to tell you. And I mean, like, yo, me and my radiator with a chain, we're just gonna chain bitches to radiators and get this bitch to fuck over with. I'm trying to tell you right now that we can get this done.
But you know what's interesting? What I found about the Libertarian Party itself, especially here in Oregon, right? That's where I'm living. I live up in Oregon. We have two Libertarian parties, and they're suing each other and fighting. And I had both parties ask me to run for office. I was like, what?
Here's the deal, man. Here's what I can tell you is probably happening. Now, I mean, I used to be a dues-paying Libertarian Party member back in the early days, like decades ago. But still, I used to be co-workers, sort of friends with the chairman of the Washtenaw County, Michigan Libertarian Party, which is a bigger deal than it sounds like because it includes Ann Arbor, right? So he's so he was head of that party, and they'd even gotten a few, minor politicians elected, which is rare for libertarians because they're in Ann Arbor, right? Anyway, they're all weird, man. They're all weird. But I can tell you one of the things that happens. If a third party, and that includes a libertarian party, starts to do really well, like get beyond the 1 or 2 or 3% numbers, get beyond like one lone elected member that's not really threatening anybody kind of thing, and they start to get significant numbers, the people with money running the two big parties will find one way or another of destroying that little party, including funding other parties to compete with it. It wouldn't surprise me if one of your two libertarian parties is getting money and support from the Democrats and or Republicans.
No, I totally agree. I have a word that I coined myself, leftitarianism, and that is the Green Party infiltrating the Libertarian Party, and it is happening. Take a look at it. It is totally happening.
Yeah, the Greens are another example of that. Although even if you go to, let's say let's pretend, because I've met some Greens, and while I think they are foolish on a number of levels, some of them are real honest. They're not dishonest. They're not deceitful. They're decent people, whatever. Even they don't seem to be aware that their party only exists. It's the same rules for them. If somewhere a Green Party candidate, once in a while does well, fine. However, once in any particular part of the world, it doesn't even matter if it's elsewhere. If once they start to do really well, they will find one way or the other to destroy that party.
Well, I have a question here. I threw this up on the screen. Jacob in the chat. Mad Dodge. But despite you being an actual liberal, you my homie, I got your back. Okay, well, thank you. Whoop whoop. But what do you mean? What do you mean actual liberal? Do you mean like liberal in the actual sense of the word, where Thomas Jefferson was a liberal? Or do you mean liberal as in progressive? Because I would argue with you tooth and nail that I am not a fucking progressive.
What do you mean by the word liberal? I used to try to hold on to the word liberal and say I'm a real liberal. And then I finally realized, you know what? Even that's it's gone. A real liberal means what? Going back to John Stuart Mill and that sort of thing. I mean, you know what? I'm not sure there's such a thing as liberalism. I really am not. Once you basically, to be a liberal, you got to say I'm open to all ideas. Well, once you've done that, I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, that is not a bad thing if you have your roots planted somewhere, right? Like if you have like a solid foundation of who you are as a human being, like you have a lot of. That's why.
Yeah, the thing you think you firmly hold to be true and can be persuaded on, but you really, you've got a moral compass, you got an intellectual compass. You know where you're starting from. Yes.
Yes, like you have honor in your traditions, and you like yourself, and you like your family, you honor your ancestors. That like, and then going out and exploring other cultures and other ideologies is not a bad thing, legitimately. But you have to have that solid boundary behind you to begin with. Like you can't. That's, and I think that's what we're really lacking. That's why like you have a lot of people who like they'll embrace like Eastern cultures and Buddhism and all these fucking retards nowadays who are saying they're fucking pagans, right? And you're just standing here going like, yo, shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, paganism, really? Like, get out of here, dude. Like that hasn't been a thing since like the fucking fucking 1200.
It's always been a while around, but most of them are LARPers, and frankly, most of them are going to find Jesus sooner or later. At least I sure hope so, or they're going to kill us. But I mean, religion doesn't go away, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's another reason I think most libertarianism as a practical matter fails, because they really think they can leave religion and the God question to the private sphere. That's what 90% of libertarians think, that you can keep the religious matters in the private sphere. And honestly, you cannot do it. It can't be done. I think one of the things we're seeing now is what happens when you try to do that.
Well, okay, you brought up religion and libertarianism. Let's dive into that a little bit. I would say that about 65 to 70% of libertarians are atheists, and I believe there's a reason for that. You're not raised a libertarian, okay? You can be raised a Republican. You can be raised a Democrat. You need to read to become a libertarian. And those people that are reading and researching are also questioning things. And that includes God.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
It really does.
Sure it does. But here's the problem as a practical matter. Once you, again, I'm speaking as a former libertarian, also a former atheist. I've had a lot of talks with my friend John Wright, the science fiction writer, who used to do a regular podcast with me. He's made a similar journey. You can't kick moral questions down the road, and libertarians almost always want to kick moral questions down the road or bring them to a personal opinion. And that's why I keep saying most libertarians fail on children too, because at this point I think we've seen enough. Porn is damaging. Sex work is damaging. We need to stop allowing people to recruit children.
The end part of your sentence, yes. Grooming children is fucking wrong, but the sex industry itself, sir, I would argue with you that it is the oldest profession in existence, and that making it legalized, i.e. Nevada, made it safer. Prove me wrong.
Nevada is a very good example of what of the sort of a regime that is not really libertarian in nature, which I also might be able to endorse it, or at least get along with. It's very close to what Augustine of Hippo, a famous Christian bishop, who said, it's better to tolerate this in areas that are set aside for it. So, I mean, if you want to do things like license and regulate and put that shit in red light districts and keep children away from it, fine. But I've otherwise had enough of it in readily available mass media. I've had enough of it being readily available in stores. I've had enough of it being readily available for free on the internet. And I mean it. I want to use the overwhelming, crushing power of the state with guns, including shooting people, if necessary, all help, to put a stop to this pornification of the culture.
Well, let me ask you a very direct question. Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to serial killers, what demographic do they usually go after? And I know we all know the answer. It's the prostitutes, right? Why is that? Because it's a shady business and it's hidden in the dark. Now, how many serial killers are running around Las Vegas right now? Not very many.
I have weird theories on serial killers that might take us in a new direction, but Yes, prostitutes get murdered a lot.
Let's stick to the porn. Let's stick to the porn.
Prostitutes do get murdered a lot. Prostitutes do get murdered a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I think a lot of the issue, like me personally, I would outlaw fucking porn until somebody's 25 fucking years old and your brain is fully formed and you've had the opportunity to have relationship with other human beings. I think that's something that we should be able to fucking do legitimately.
Pnoid, I want to ask you a question then. Why 25? Why that arbitrary number? Because there's lots of real quick, there's lots of arbitrary numbers. There's 18 to smoke a cigarette, 21 to drink a beer, 18 to join the army, 16 in Great Britain for age of consent, 16 in Great Britain for age of consent. Now,
it's
if the age of consent, well, real quick, if the age of consent is 16, then why the fuck are you outlawing porn until the age of 25? When the actress can be, well, you just heard the age of consent.
Okay, my here's where my mentality is, right? Because you're not fully formed until you're 25. Your brain doesn't stop becoming it's not fully formed as an adult until 25 years old. That's why if you're gonna deal with a female, you shouldn't deal with a female under the age of 25. Unless you have the ability to legitimately chain her to a fucking radiator or something, because that's when they'll settle down and relax and chill, and that's when most dudes end up settle into their fucking life and beginning their career and things. It's what you get out of college at 23, 24 years old. 25 is the age in which your brain stops fucking developing from a maturity aspect, right? And so that's why I picked the age of 25. I think it's a biological thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with any arbitrary shit. It's just a biological fucking mentality is where I'm at.
Any number that you pick is going to be arbitrary anyway. I kind of like that one. I've pretty much had enough. I want free porn on the internet banned. I want anybody under a certain age, anybody caught under making porn or distributing porn under a certain age, the harshest possible penalties. Porn is given away free all over the internet. By people who claim they're defending free speech, but we know they're not now, because the same people who gave us porn for free speech are still distributing free porn while crushing everybody else all over the place. Free and shameful. Okay. It's being used as a weapon. It's being used as a weapon. Porn has been used as a weapon against the culture to degrade the culture. We know the effects that it has. It's been used on other cultures. For the same purposes and for the same effect, to do what it's doing to us now. We're going to have to take it seriously. There's going to have to be rules. All rules you put up will be arbitrary at some level. I would most favor, at this point, most favor making it all completely illegal. And I mean harsh prison penalties.
Max, that's what I was going to get at. I was going to ask you, what would your penalties be then?
Oh, we'd have to have a range of them. But I don't think any of this is realistic. I think we have to deal with the here and now. No, I really would. But go ahead. I would say that, I can't sit here. I would be making up a bunch of stuff. Let's just put it a hard prison time for production of porn, hard prison time for it. I think one thing we're going to have to do though is, one of the things we're going to need to do is scrub the internet. We're going to need some kind of law. We're going to need some kind of legislation, some kind of crushing government force, which I 100% think we need lots of crushing government force here, to also force the internet to be scrubbed of people's private materials. We need some kind of server reboot where every kid, every adult even, but certainly every kid. I don't know if you guys heard, but for example, Twitter announced, admitted that they have something like 300 million photos of what would legally be called child porn from kids sexting each other because they keep all those messages forever. which means if you ever sexted anyone, including if you were 13-year-olds and see you sent a picture of your dong to somebody, that's on the internet forever.
I do want to push back at you from the freedom of speech aspect on the internet, but we'll get to that here in a minute. Let's go first to okay. Now, do you remember? I'm 35 years old. Okay, so I had AOL. I was on chat rooms at 15 saying that I was 25.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Hitting on older chicks.
Yep.
These kids are going to do it no matter what. Right. So you trying to regulate it isn't going to change anything, dude. Teenage pregnancy is an issue for a reason, right? Like, kids are going to, you know?
I'm with you on part of that, but as soon as you said I can't regulate it, I'm like, no, you're wrong. I can regulate the shit out of it, and I can do it. I can do it only with the power of the state, and I will happily use the power of the state to this purpose. For any libertarians listening who get mad if this makes me a statist, too bad. Yes, and in fact, I am again all about shooting people dead who will not comply. Okay, so I would make that really clear.
Okay, Mal, calm down.
Every time I mention something like that, some libertarians start sparking. Oh, he's just dating.
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna be that libertarian. That's totally gonna be me because I'm about the counter. I'm about the counter punch. Okay. No. If you want to, listen. You want to use government force to crack down on me? What am I gonna do? I'm going to use my own innovativeness, and I'm going to get around your government force. And if I don't, my kid will. And if my kid doesn't, my cousin will. So will my brother. So will Pnoid. So will half of the damn internet, brother.
You know who won't get around me? You know who will not get around me? Who will take the boot of the state power that won't be able to get around me? Facebook. Twitter, any big corporation and anybody with big money and clout. I mean, I want to see people with the letter CEO next to their name in jail on a lot of this.
Now, I'm with that ideology. I'm legitimately with that ideology now. Right. Because that, I honestly think that's really what's wrong with our democracy right now is the fact that we have not been putting people in jail.
Are you trying, Pnoid, you're trying to trigger me. It's a republic, not a democracy, you cunt.
I feel where you are. That's what's wrong with our republic. It's the fact that, with the loss thereof of our faith in our government, right? We have lost complete and utter faith in our government to do the right thing, especially after the bailouts in 2009, the Iraq war shit. There's a fucking article that just came out today from the Washington Post. They got 2,000 pages of interviews from people who were dealing with the fucking Afghanistan war. And they said that Donald Rumsfeld said, we have no idea who we're fighting and why in Afghanistan. Right. And that's back in 2003 and 2004. We've been at war there for 18 fucking years. So with that being said, I'm kind of behind the ideology of sending these people to jail. Now, this argument all started because fucking Gab, right? The owner of fucking Gab said that he doesn't want porn on his platform and he wanted people who made porn to go to fucking jail. Now, I'm not behind the ideology of arresting and fucking incarcerating individuals who make porn. But I am under the ideology of standing here using the government to try and force a way to be able to have people to understand what's best for their fucking lives, right? And to stop, I'd legitimately put out scientific fucking studies about, shit of this nature and make them mainstream so everybody understands it. So make it come out of make Hollywood fucking make this shit. We used to do this all the time with the CIA fucking putting out Russian propaganda. Why can't we put out real propaganda from fucking Hollywood that actually is hey, look, let us show you why this is fucking actually really horrible and detrimental for everybody in our fucking nation. Because it does destroy families. It does destroy relationships. It does destroy our fucking children. It destroys their fucking sexual behavior. It destroys their future fucking lives and shit.
It does.
Right? Yo, it does. All this shit is factually fucking proven. And I mean, you can't have somebody thinking that their wife's gonna fucking get anally gaped and fisted the moment they fucking meet him and shit. You know what I mean? Because that's not fucking reality. You know what I mean? These girls shouldn't be motherfucking thinking that they should be doing this shit with every fucking dude in the planet. These are all things that we should legitimately be having a real conversation about. And we need to like, and that's why like I always go to war with these fucking skeptic cocksuckers who are all basically like halfway fucking libertarians, but on the same point, like they're centrists who are fucking retarded.
Skeptics are always retarded. 100% of all skeptics are retarded.
I'm blocked by half of them. Yo, did I tell you what happened with the skeptics? Did I tell you what happened, dude?
I used to be one of them. It is a creepy. I used to be one of them. It is a creepy cult network, and the people at the top get paid to do what they do, and they will skeptic for cash. Okay, they'll be skeptical.
I know. Did I tell you? Did I tell you what I did to them?
What did you do to them?
Did I tell you what
hurt them? They're horrible people.
Yo, fucking, they had one of the skeptics. He was banging his broad. Actually, there was two of them who was banging his one broad, and she fucking like she commented on some post about how like she's a single mom and she deserves a free car or some shit. And I was like, if you close your fucking legs, you wouldn't have that problem of being a single fucking mom. And oh my God, the skeptics came out of the fucking woodwork and brigaded me so hard I started trending on Twitter. It was fucking glorious, dude. I broke all the skeptics at the same motherfucking time. Like I picked up like 50 followers. It was amazing. I called her kid a waterhead and shit. I said that she was proud. Her kid. She said my kid's autistic. I said it's not my fault. You fucked your brother, right? It was the best shit ever, right? But like, yeah, man.
Who did you say that to? May I ask? Which skeptic did you say that to? Was that tool? Shannon or what?
No. It was one of Undoom's followers.
Oh, okay. Skepticism is a skeevy cult. It is a total cult network. And their so-called skepticism is totally fake. They'll say, "What's wrong with skepticism?" What's wrong is you can be skeptical of anything or anybody for any reason at any time. Skepticism is always arbitrary. Always. There's no time you're skeptical that you're not being at least somewhat arbitrary. All you're doing is
they're fucking dumb.
Well, no, they're not skeptical, and this is how I could say that because I was in chat, right? One of my friends, and he's still cool. It's one of the atheist guys. I'm not gonna name drop here, but I was in the chat, right? And I go, I'm pro-life on both issues. I'm anti-death penalty, and I'm anti-abortion. I'm pro-life on both issues. Suddenly, like, fucking 10 different women went, fuck you, don't ever talk to me again, you fucking prick. Whoa, why? Because you want to murder babies? Like I'm the bad guy? Like, what the fuck?
They've probably murdered their own babies or helped other people murder their own babies. And they feel bad about it.
This is why women shouldn't vote legitimately. Like, their freedom is legitimately based on the death of your own culture. Real shit.
Most men shouldn't vote either, but yeah, definitely women. Most men shouldn't vote either, but that's another question.
Well, I feel as though if you're willing, if you're going to be forced to sign up for the draft and fight in a fucking war and be responsible for our society, you should at bare minimum be able to pick who the fucking leader is who's going to send you.
Yeah, just be careful. I got away from men's rights, even though I used to be big on it, just because. Oh, never mind. We're getting too far afield. Let's go back to it. I generally, on general principles, oppose the death penalty, even though in this particular, I'm willing to talk about the death penalty. But the way I would use the death penalty here is to stop pornographers, okay? And I mean those involved in the production and distribution the same. And I don't, once again, I have only minimal interest in the average Snapchat user or whatever, okay? What I'm interested in is the people who make their millions doing this. Who make their livings doing this. And it's not small independent producers I care that much about. But examples are going to have to be made. What we have here is a rich multimillionaire class that is doing most of the pushing on this porn. And they know the damage it's causing and they don't care. I'm all for a few people put on trial and instituting the death penalty for certain types of foreign distribution and executing people on public trial if caught doing it once the new laws are in effect. I mean, you can't go back and go after people for things they've already done.
I in general, Max, disagree with you.
I'm sure
I believe freedom of choice is paramount. And if somebody wants to watch a woman get nailed by 3 black dudes, then good for them. That's not my position to fucking say you can't watch that. Now, I will agree with you on a certain point. Go to Pornhub and look up the trending topics. Half of them are incest. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a weird degeneracy invading our culture?
It's being pushed on purpose, and it's one of the reasons why we need to stop it. It's enough. I think we've seen enough. This does affect behavior. It does affect the culture. It does affect individuals. It does ruin lives. We need to be able to say no to this. Sexual liberation is mind control. Sexual liberation is being used intentionally, knowingly, willfully to destroy people and to destroy society, to make America
and like seriously, Pnoid, I want to hear your thoughts because man,
shut up.
Isn't that persuading into the culture and poisoning America? Pretty much. I mean, look at the trending topics on Pornhub. Half of them are my mommy or my sister. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Do you know why? Well, you have to understand why. There's actually a psychological fucking problem with all right, so with the amount of divorces and separated fucking families inside of America at this point, it's gotten down to the level of where there is a base nature in human beings to where if you don't see your family members for a long time and then you see them there's actual sexual tension between you. Right. This is about separated families and shit. No, seriously. I mean, it's actually a biological fucking thing. It's because of the fact that, hang on, man. It's because of the fact that, like, back in the day when you had fucking, like, tribal whatever, you know what I'm saying? When you had fucking individuals who were, just forming like basic hunting groups and things of this nature, when people came back, like, they didn't have that discriminant ideology of we don't fucking inbreed. Like, that wasn't something that was, put into the fucking vernacular of human beings' fucking heads and shit. So, like, and that's legit where that shit comes from. It's from the separated families in America. Well, legit. That's why it's becoming so much more prevalent. That in America has an incest problem. It has a major fucking incest problem, and nobody wants to talk about it.
It's being pushed and being normalized. And some of what you're saying is probably true. The separated families is a big part of it. But separated families makes us more vulnerable to it. And the people pushing it are making it trend. They don't have to make a trend. They're making it trend. They want
no. These are natural trends.
They want to push bestiality, incest, and child sex. Okay, they want to.
Right. Well, real quick, I'm getting yelled at by the chat. So we got I call him Voice of One, but he's now just another nerd because he's a weirdo and changed his fucking name. Stop doing that shit. But he says, okay, so death penalty for creators of porn, but not pedos or terrorists. Yeah, that's just moronic.
Said that? Who said that? Did I say that? I didn't say that. So could you tell me who?
I'm behind that. I'm behind that ideology.
I didn't say that at all. Sorry.
I want death penalty for all 3 of those. I'm not going to go with creators of porn as much as I will in distributors. Distribution of porn is really the motherfuckers who is the problem at the moment. And then I'm gonna say yes, pedos should get the fucking bullet, and terrorists, of course, they should get the goddamn bullet. You know what I mean?
My view is actually generally against the death penalty because I do not think the state can be trusted honestly. Most of the time, I think that there are extreme cases where you need it. I actually want most terrorists captured and behind bars forever so that we can keep talking to them and studying them and all that. In most cases, some of them just need to die, of course. But if you capture them alive, you should keep them alive if you can. That I mean, but they deserve to die. I mean, if you kill them in the field, the hell, I'll be happy to shoot them myself. If you got to kill them, then that's a. I'm sorry. Just what kind of bullshit change of subject is that? This is about a specific problem.
What about pedophiles? Murder pedophiles, or no?
It really depends on where they're from and what they're about. Certainly, sex traffickers. There's a whole bunch of sex traffickers in Jeffrey Epstein's league who to be hung by the neck till dead publicly. I'm talking about your Epsteins of the world, your Weinsteins of the world, your Clintons and Bushes of the world, if you will. The fact of the matter is these high-level sex traffickers, who, by the way, are only, doing what the market wants. Why would any libertarian object to child sex trafficking? I can't think why any libertarian would object to child sex trafficking at all.
Okay, I kind of feel like, no, wait a minute. I kind of feel like that's a jab at me. All right.
That's a jab at all libertarians.
Yeah, no, well, I'm the only libertarian in the room, so I'm gonna jab back.
Really? What? From a libertarian perspective?
Yeah, the libertarian perspective is the non-aggression principle.
Let me ask
and if you are not of the age of consent and you cannot consent, then you are being aggressed upon. I would argue the NAP, sir.
Let me ask you for a question under the NAP. I'm a 9-year-old boy, and this man is offering me $5,000 to give him a blowjob. I'd really like that $5,000, and a blowjob doesn't sound that bad, sir. Can I do it? I'm 9.
You're not of the age of consent. That would be the adult. No, that would be the adult. The adult would be creating an act of aggression at that point.
Okay, where does the NAP specify an age of aggression of consent, and what is it based on?
Well, the age of consent is based on the government fucking principle, whether or not fucking has that line.
Well, and I'm basing it more off of my morals, which age of consent is 18. But I'm not British, so I don't drop it down to 16.
Let me put it like this: if you put your cock anywhere near a young fucking child, like legit, you need a bullet in the goddamn head. That's my mentality.
Hey man, if I'm getting too aggressive, just tell me to calm the fuck down, because I get cranky. I get cranky. Yeah. That's all. I wasn't even specifically. However, I want to point out something to you, bro. I told you this is something I've noticed for years. I'm 53, right? And I'm a former libertarian, and I walked away from libertarianism for a reason. It was because libertarianism always fails on the question of children, and I think we just identified it. You just admitted it. Nobody citing the non-aggression principle or any other libertarian can tell me straight why I can't pay a 5-year-old to do sex things to me because I'm a perv and I have the money. And that 5-year-old maybe could really like that money and use that money.
I thought I just said it. That's an act of aggression because you are in a position of
you did
authority.
Okay.
Yeah, authority. Thank you, Pnoid. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You were just forced to admit that this is a matter of personal morality on your part when you set an age, because a pure libertarian on libertarian grounds cannot justify an age of consent that I can find. What is it and where is it? Every libertarian I've said says it's an arbitrary number. It's like, okay, this is a failure point for libertarianism, and it's a big one for libertarianism. You as a libertarian are not failing, just like you're obviously not failing as a father. You're in your children's lives. It's awesome. But libertarianism, they can give no coherent answer. They always have to fall back on some kind of religious or other morality. Because you cannot tell me why a 3-year-old should not be allowed to be a prostitute.
Yeah. Well, no, I get your point. But I would argue also, libertarianism is pretty much herding cats. We are all our own individual. Therefore, every person you ask will have their own moral boundaries. Right,
which is a big problem within libertarianism. To me, it ultimately gets down to because nobody has any ultimate. If you have some kind of society, I will say I'm not actually advocating to become a strictly theocratic society, but when you had a broadly Christian society, which I did grow up in, even though I was an atheist, I grew up in a broadly Christian society. When you were violating or pushing against the moral code, you at least knew what you were pushing against. Now we don't know what we're pushing against, and we'll go to anywhere. We'll go to pedos. We'll go to incest. We'll go to bestiality. We'll go to necrophilia, child porn. Why not? It's all of a piece. We gave up any objective morality. This is where we wind up.
Well, I'm not sure if one of you guys brought this person in. I haven't seen their name before, but James Rollins says, my biggest thing is, what about shitty kids who hate their step parents and claim a falsehood of sexual abuse? That is something that does happen, right? And it's mainly teenage girls doing it to their stepfathers, right?
Yep. It's a real problem. I agree. I used to deal with issues like this. I used to be the managing editor over at A Voice for Men, and I was in Cassie J's movie, The Red Pill. And so I used to do men's rights issues all the time, and this is a huge one. Yeah, I mean, it's one we don't talk about because usually when you're talking about these things, you talk about how the family courts screw over the dads, which they do. But long term, man, being a stepdad can get you screwed 6 ways from Sunday, including, yes, false allegations from a stepdaughter who's mad at you, or from a stepdaughter and a wife or whatever who's mad at you. It's scary out there, and it's another reason society's falling apart. I can tell you, I don't think it's strictly necessary. I really don't think it's strictly necessary. We didn't have to go down this route, but what's probably going to happen is women's rights are going to take a complete tumble into shit by the 2030s. At the latest, I would think, because of all this garbage.
Well, I would agree with you. I would say that feminism itself, as soon as it hit, like, what are they calling it, third wave now? I mean, it might as well be the fucking menopause stage, right? Like, I mean, you guys are done.
It's put a fork in them. They're done. I mean, they still control a large part of the government and the culture, but they're almost done. Everybody hates them. Nothing about them is good. And unless you're a college professor.
Now, let me throw something out here, right? I mean, because like, and somebody in the chat brought it up. James Ron brought it up in the chat. He said, when it comes to pedophilia, cooler heads don't often prevail, right? And let me put it like this, right? I truly believe, like, honestly, really, and wholly believe that legit, if we were allowed to shoot pedophiles, all right, that people would make a whole lot less false claims if they knew it would end up in death.
Well, first off, you better have a really high standard for that. As much as I hate pedos, and by the way, I hate them a lot. I was caught by some when I was a kid. I don't like them very much at all, and I don't like making excuses for them. But I don't favor vigilante justice. I want to see trials. I want to see evidence. I want to see proof, and I want to see proof of more than just, having perverted thoughts or feelings, but I want to see what they acted on. But all that, beyond that, a few public executions would do a world of good. If we get all those, you say allowed to shoot them, and that is too cavalier. I don't want falsehoods or
I don't know. That. Like, okay, so like it's kind of like this. Like, I want my church cleaned up, right? Like, I don't like how like my pope. Hang on. Me and you've had this conversation before. You get iffy about it, but like, I feel a lot of rage and anger because like I feel as though we should be handling our own. Right, like I think the Vatican should be sending the Swiss Guard out to handle shit when there's like legitimate, credible claims, and I think that would go a long way in restoring the faith in our church.
All right, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The last time you were on, you were saying you didn't even care if innocent priests went to jail. That might be for the better. I'm like, no, sorry, I'm never going to be okay with putting innocent men away, ever. Just to send any kind of message. It's always wrong, period. And I love my priest. You better not kill him. There's nothing wrong with him. He's not a pedo, I assure you. I know what real pedos are. And frankly, Catholics who aren't in the pews on Sundays don't have that much to say that means much to me. Come back to church and let's talk together about what we can do about it. It would be my answer to you. I would say that to Owen Benjamin too. I'm sick of Owen Benjamin, the comedian, all his shtick on that. Oh, I can't go back because there's pedos in my church. I want to be Catholic because there's pedos in my church. I'm like, you're pussy Owen Benjamin. Your answer is to get your ass back in the church so you can fight with us. Thank you.
Well, I mean, so here's the problem. Like, legit, here's the issue, right? That it really comes down to for me. Like, my mentality is the same as it is with the government, right? Like, when the government fails to act when wrongs happen in a very large public way, it ends up having you lose faith in that institution.
Well, sure,
right,
sure.
And then with their church, in the same way, like, the church has the ability to act. And I understand that, like, federal laws and all this nonsense, but the reality is that the Vatican City in fucking Rome is its own authority, right? It's its own fucking country.
No.
They could easily drag the priest there, put them on fucking trial, and the Catholic Church. That's just like, hang on, like, yo, like, for instance, I've been arguing with people about fucking the Inquisition, right? Like, the fucking most recent thing says only like 2,500 people were fucking killed in the Inquisition in 400 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right. Like, is what I'm saying. Like, I love my church. Get nothing misunderstood. Right. So, like, I'm saying the Vatican has the ability to put these individuals on trial, present the evidence, and if they're found guilty, put them to death.
The Vatican
and fucking and put some faith back in the goddamn church.
All right. Two answers there, since we're off onto this, but we might as well be. Number one, there is no question right now there's a serious corruption issue in the Vatican. The Vatican needs to be cleaned out, and it needs to be cleaned out good. And by the way, it will be. The Virgin Mary will take care of it soon if nobody else does. However, in terms of the Vatican's ability, or the church's hierarchy's ability to go pull people in and take priests or bishops and put them on trial and execute them, Vatican's got no such power, sir. That's just a fantasy you've got. You were good until you started saying that stuff. In reality, people should understand that popes are extraordinarily limited in powers. They still have to obey. I mean, they could try smuggling someone out of a country and bringing them to the Vatican. But otherwise, if they can't do that, if they can't literally smuggle someone out and kidnap them and bring them to the Vatican, they are subject to all the laws. You want to get an American priest, you're subject to American law in trying to extradite him to the Vatican. It's not that simple. And
I don't think the government would put up a whole lot of a fight. I legitimately don't.
All the priest has to do is get a lawyer and say, no, I will not be extradited, and file a court thing saying I won't go, and the U.S. courts will back him up and will not simply extradite him. That will not happen.
We have extradition treaties with fucking the Vatican and with Rome.
All right, now you're just being silly. Now you think the Pope could just snap his fingers and make the German government and the Chinese government and the American government turn over any priest who they want. It doesn't work that way. No. It doesn't work that way.
I understand. I understand it doesn't work that way, right? But legitimately, I'm 95% sure, like, yo, he could fight, not the Pope. But, the fucking Vatican fucking officials could stand here and file extradition paperwork, right? And ask the U.S. government to extradite these individuals over here for crimes against the fucking women.
I need to ask a question. If it doesn't work that way, then why exactly did the Catholic Church under Pope John Paul II cycle priests in and out of dioceses? Because they were accused of, you know what they were accused of. Why exactly did they have that power, but you can't extradite? I think you're a little full of shit.
Oh, I think you're both full of shit, and you should listen to me because I'm the Catholic in the room who knows how it works. I will answer your question on that one, since we're off on this topic. It is very easy for you to be morally superior about how the Catholic Church did this and the Catholic Church did that when you weren't there and you don't actually know what was going on. And by the way, the secular system's always had a worse problem than we do. In any case, during the era where it was fairly normal to shuffle around priests, it was also fairly normal to be hearing things from psychologists like, we can send him to therapy and we can make him better. and for the bishops to believe that shit. They didn't stop believing that until about the 1990s when enough people says, no, you can't treat them. So a whole lot of these guys got shuffled around because they were just told, the church officials were told, he's fine now. You send him to this doctor, you send him to this treatment center, you send him off here and it'll be done. Also, there's this whole foolish notion that the Catholic Church is managed centrally from the Vatican. That is probably the number one problem everybody's got on this. They think that basically the Vatican is a corporate, the Pope is a corporate CEO, and the whole thing is one big corporation like IBM, and the CEO can just order anything he wants. It doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way in 2,000 years. It is not centrally managed. Once a guy's a priest, he's a priest. Once he's a bishop, he's a bishop. The Pope can't just make people do things. The Pope can't just call down to Chicago and say, I need this bishop and these 5 priests ordered to the Vatican today to stand trial for me. The Pope cannot do that. In fact, if he tries, there's not only American lawyers that would fight that, but there's church lawyers that would fight him on that because the Pope doesn't have that level of power. You guys are proving that it have more power than it does. Many of the cases you're talking about are local bishops and local priests doing things on their own authority, sometimes because they were corrupt and covering for child predators, sometimes because they legitimately thought, well, the doctor says he's better. You know, and he's right now. You know, he promises not to do it again. I mean, it was a different era. Right now, I can tell you statistically, a Catholic priest is far less likely to molest a child than a school teacher or an average man on the street. In fact, you and me and Pnoid are probably all statistically more dangerous around children than a Catholic priest. At this point, so much has been done. But ultimately, you should think more of like the Catholic Church like it's a franchise operation. The Vatican doesn't own all those hospitals and orphanages and parishes. The local parishes and the people who run them own them. You know, if a guy's a Catholic priest, he's in a, you know, there's a certain amount that the diocese has authority over. There's a certain amount the archdiocese has authority over. There's a certain amount that the Vatican has authority over. And if one level starts fighting with another, it grinds all down to a halt. It's not like the Pope is a king. It doesn't work that way. And he's not a CEO either. He could literally call the cardinals of Spain and say, I want these 5 bishops sent to me today. And those cardinals could say, you're insane, Holy Father. No. It's not the king of Catholics. It's not how it works.
Okay, may I?
Go ahead. I'll stop for a while.
Okay. First off, I was raised Catholic. I was baptized. I went to Mass. I am now pretty much Gnostic, right? Like I'm not quite an atheist. I go back and forth sometimes. But I do love theology. And by the way, I am registered as a minister. So I do know a little bit here. And second, you could say the Pope doesn't have that power all you want. Look at the bills. Look at the money flow. I'll tell you he does have that power.
Oh, now you're
because he does. Because he does.
No, he
Do
doesn't.
you not understand the fucking scandal with Pope John Paul?
Oh, no.
And what fucking ousted Benedict? Come on,
The Vatican,
dude.
the Vatican banking issue, and the Vatican Bank is a huge issue. And guess what? The popes don't control that fucking thing. That's one of the issues. I mean, they particularly do, but they really don't. One of the worst. We need to get the Vatican Bank not just cleaned out. We need it abolished. There shouldn't be a Vatican Bank. We should go back to where we were pre-World War II, when it was just an accounting service that ran up here for the Vatican. But you need to know, if you're a Catholic, then you need to remember a few things. Your local parish is run by your local parish and funded by your local parishioners, and who hires your local priest and pays your local priest. And the Pope could call your local parish where you were baptized and confirmed and say, I demand that this priest be sent to me today to stand trial. And the whole parish could say, "F you, Pope," and not do it. Okay?
I don't know. My local church is run by the diocese.
Well, the point is, yes,
Well, yeah, Pnoid, where you're at in the country, dude, your diocese is probably old as shit.
No, I'm in
You
the
know what I mean?
Archdiocese of Detroit. I'm in the Archdiocese of Detroit, which is one of the largest and one of the most politically screwed up archdiocese in the entire American church. Now you're talking about church bureaucracy. I'm telling you how it really works. Okay, your local people and your local, it's all works under this sort of thing, this principle called subsidiarity. The local people running the parish, the individual dioceses have properties. The archdiocese has properties. The archdiocese doesn't own. Oh my goodness gracious! The bottom line is, it's not run like one big corporation. Okay.
Well, the archdiocese actually owns most of the churches around here. Like
it could be that they've done it that way. It doesn't necessarily go that way, but it could be that they've done it that way. And that's probably because of the consolidation of the parishes that's been going on. But even then, the local diocese and the local archdioceses will mostly operate independently. They support their finances to the Vatican.
I would like to bring this fact up. Look at the 5 richest people in the world, the 5 people that own the most land. You're looking at the Queen of England.
Yeah.
You're looking at the Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the Pope. And you know why you're looking at the Pope at number 3? It's because every church is papal land.
Okay.
Every church is pretty much an embassy, dude.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I wish it were so. I wish it were so.
You can claim that. You can claim that. Fucking there is legal ground for using your church almost as an embassy. I forget what the law is.
What happens when you try and how hard it is to implement that? No. The Vatican does not hold title on your local parish. I'm sorry, it does not. If you can show me where the Vatican has title on your local parish or your local hospital, you show me that the Vatican has that. And in any case, it wouldn't be the Pope. You're talking about the Vatican itself. You're talking about the Holy See, the institution. That individual Pope doesn't, I mean, okay, I guess while he's Pope, technically it's his. You watch. Pope Francis does not own Mary Mercy Hospital down the street from me. He doesn't. He does not own my parish. Historically, we did have arrangements that were like that in Europe, and it might still be the case in some case in parts of Europe that it's like that. That the Pope, the Vatican literally owns the lands. It's usually it's usually the parish may own certain things here in the United States. The parish itself may own certain things. The archdiocese or the diocese may own certain things. Management of certain things is managed at the archdiocese level. There's canon lawyers whose job is to take care of all this. The bottom line is no prelate, no cardinal, no archbishop, no pope has infinite power to just order whatever he wants. It doesn't work that way. It's actually, we're the Catholic Church. We invented bureaucracy. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We invented it.
Yeah, so I got you. I understand. Like your church kind of runs like the mob, right? Basically, it's kind of like, all right. So there's like the heads thing. There's heads of the mob in your local area, right? Mm-hmm. And all the guys underneath that kick up to him, and then that guy kicks up to the bigger guy who's part of the larger part of the fucking family, and then that guy kicks up fucking one more level, and then it kick it back fucking across seas, right? And each of them takes a piece as it goes across. And that tends to be how the churches operate. The church takes in fucking donations. They keep a certain amount to keep the fucking church running, and then they kick it up to the diocese. The diocese keeps a piece for their fucking administration and operations, and then they kick that shit up to the Vatican.
Right.
Like it looked like La Cosa Nostra is set up the same goddamn way as the fucking as the churches. Yep. But here's the thing. All right. Now, if orders come down from on high, right, fucking, and usually it doesn't happen. Like, it almost never fucking happens that somebody in Sicily will fucking order something to happen in goddamn New York or fucking Jersey or wherever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But that does happen. Yeah, legitimately, it does happen.
And when it does, there's ramifications, including quite often fights.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is that the Vatican. That's why the Vatican has its own country. All right, it's its own fucking country, and so as a sovereign country, it has the right to stand here and say one of our employees is fucking up. We need his ass back here, right? Or one of no, I'm not going to say employee. One of our representatives. All right, like the Vatican, like I'm not saying the Pope, but like fucking like the underlings of the Pope, the bureaucracy under the Pope, can defrock a priest in America. That can happen.
Oh, it can.
And does.
Even then, you'd be surprised how much work that is, because he gets
I know
he gets to mount a defense. He gets to have a canon lawyer on his side. He gets to come up and prove your charges and what the basis of your charges are. Again, we actually invented all this shit, and then the secular government took it over.
You're proving my point.
I have a question though, to both of you. To both of you, can't the Pope literally just look at you and say you're going to hell?
No.
Yes,
no,
he can.
No, he can't.
He did it to the King of England.
I don't know. I mean, in terms of excommunicating somebody, that's what you mean. You mean excommunicate somebody?
Yes, I was talking about excommunication, which is the Pope himself, the Holy Father, saying you are going to hell. That is what that means.
So wait a minute. In fact, even these days, the church has gotten to arguing about it. While there's your hardcores who think anybody who dies outside the church automatically goes to hell, not everybody agrees it quite works that way anymore. In any case, he can excommunicate. And here's the thing: that let's presume that is a power that is a nuclear weapon. I'm sorry, that's akin to assassination. That's akin to the Pope reaching down and saying, "Pow!" And that, again, will have such huge political ramifications if a Pope does it. Like, there will be people shunned, there will be people shocked, there will think people who are on the Pope's side, and there will be others who think the Pope has gone quite mad. A schism might result. Complete insanity and uproar might result. This is why excommunications are rarely done. They have to be for the most brazen. I mean, you've got to have not just the most grave crime, but the most grave evidence beyond anything reasonable to just throw. I mean, it is the Catholic equivalent of a death penalty. Okay, I'll give it to you that way. And so, yes, theoretically, the Pope, just as the President of the United States, by the way, could today order your execution by simply doing so. He could, and you'd probably never have any response. He can certainly do that to any non-American anytime he wants to. But it's the same with the Pope. He can excommunicate anybody he wants. It's like that level of power, but popes don't do that readily, and it would destroy the church if they did.
Well, here's the thing, but Mad Dodge, to state to your point, our Pope just recently this year said that hell is not a real thing, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You know what I mean?
Pope Francis, a lot of people, I don't know if he actually said that, but some of his theological friends have. The thing is he's on the edge of creating a schism with some of the shit he says or does. It's.
I don't fucking like him at all. This is my angle. Like this is my major issue. This is why I'm angry right now at the church, is that instead of correcting the fucking bullshit that needs to be corrected, fuck it, let's take goddamn responsibility because we're grown-ups, and let's be the moral authority we're supposed to be. Me and you've had this conversation. But fucking he, instead of doing that, what he's doing is going, let's be woke. And he's fucking standing here going, oh, man, we need to address climate change, and fucking capitalism is horrible, and fucking the worst, Donald Trump's the worst person in the world. And he's being woke instead of fixing shit that he should be fucking fixing.
The bottom line is that Pope Francis is, okay, I'll say again what I said to you. I don't care much what lapsed Catholics think at this point. If your butt's not in the pew on Sundays, I don't care. I really don't. That sounds rude, but really, get your ass in church and come have the fight there. Otherwise, you're just as much of a problem.
What do you? Well, wait a minute. What do you mean by that? You're just as much as a problem because you step out. Wait a minute. No, you step out. You remove
He's right.
yourself from the situation. Why did you do
He's
that?
right.
Because
right.
you did that. You did that because me myself would be an original Roman Catholic. I'm pre-Vatican II. No, thank you. I don't need
He's
your
right.
woke bullshit. I don't need it. So if you're gonna move away from me, you moved away from me, not the other way around.
Oh well,
Max is right. Like, yo, Max is right. If you can't run away from motherfucking this bullshit. Like, you should be in church fighting the thick shit rather than standing here, you know what I mean, bitching from the fucking cheap seats and shit.
Well,
he's not
would say
wrong.
that if you're serious, you do need to be in the church. That's for anybody who's saying, "Well, I was Catholic," because I hear that all the time. It's not anybody in particular in this conversation. You need to be in there fighting the fight because it's real easy to be out there. Because I'll tell you something, this shit follows us. It will follow you no matter where you go. It's in the church, but it's not just in the church. In fact, one of the reasons everybody's so obsessed with the church is because the press, the secular press has been covering for pedos like Epstein for decades. The secular press has been covering for the massive pedo problem in the foster homes and in the public schools and in the juvenile prisons, which, by the way, are all way worse than the church's problems, but the secular press doesn't want to talk about that. Which, you know, this public schools have been doing it like 100 times worse for decades, and all we talk about is the church. Now, we do need to talk about the church, but I will mention to you, if you're Catholic, you should go looking at Taylor Marshall and Tim Gordon and Patrick Coffin and what's his name, who runs the Remnant, and the guys at Sensus Fidelium, and I don't like him, but Michael Voris. Who's here in the Detroit area. These are all churchmen who are out there really loud fighting the fight against the pedos and the LGBT mafia and the sexual perversion and the financial corruption in the church. These are all men who go to mass and pray every day, who are really loud and vocal. And so even if you're an ex-Catholic, you should realize it's easy for you to sit there and cross your arms and I'm so morally superior. These men are in there fighting the fight. I just gave you names: Timothy Gordon, Taylor Marshall, Michael Voris, Patrick Coffin, the guys at the Remnant, the guys at Shubat.org. We're out there and we're fighting the fight. Come back to church and help us.
No, and I will totally check them out, by the way. This is the first time we've ever interacted, so it is nice to meet you, by the way.
It's real nice to meet
so
you.
hopefully you don't fucking hate me already. But the thing is, though, I believe that the church moved away from me. I didn't move away from it.
Well, okay,
so that's where I'm standing.
Okay, so even there where I'd say that, unless you're a sedevacantist, and I gotta admit, things are so crazy right now. I know that some sedevacantist, you know what a sedevacantist is, right? I'm sorry, do you know what a sedevacantist is? Okay, a sedevacantist holds that the See of Peter is empty, that the chair is empty, that there is no pope, and the sedevacantists have been a movement basically around Vatican II. Some hold that we have not had a valid, that basically a sedevacantist holds that we have no valid pope. Some hold that we have had no valid pope since, I can't remember their names, I apologize. Some hold basically since the pope who opened Vatican II, that we've had no pope since him, that he was an anti-pope and every pope since then is an anti-pope. Or the pope who closed Vatican II is an anti-pope. But regardless, they all believe everything from Vatican II on, we've had no real popes. So that's one strain of Catholic, and they are very old school, traditionalist. You know, if you go to a sedevacantist church, if you find one, you'll be transported to like 1910 Baltimore is what you'll see and hear there. It will be strictly altar boys only. You'll hear Latin mass only. You get the whole 9 yards. Baltimore Catechism, original edition, all that stuff. And that's fine if that's where you're at, I guess. I don't think all sedevacantists are going to hell, for example, although I don't know. If you're a sedevacantist I really like, by the way, is Brother Peter DeMond of Holy Family Monastery. I mean, to be honest, he's I honestly think he's hardcore, what you'd have to call Catholic fundamentalist, right? I mean, but he's wonderful to listen to, and he's highly entertaining. And I don't always agree with him, but he's fun, just because he's like Brother Peter from Holy Family Ministry. He's like he's like practically his own little pope. He does these videos and he's talking to people. You have fallen forever from the Catholic faith. You have fallen forever from the Catholic faith. You have fallen forever from the Catholic faith. You have fallen from the. You must. He just does nothing but correct people's errors. But I enjoy listening to him anyway, even if I don't always think he's right. I'm sorry I'm rambling too much, and it's nice meeting you. I hope we can talk more too. Because I love somebody who can put up with my aggressive manner.
Well, no, and you're not really rambling. What I am wondering though, are you pretty much talking about the Jesuits? Pretty much, right?
No.
The Jesuits are a problem. They may be the core of the problem. I'm not sure. They certainly are a problem.
The Jesuits are most definitely an issue. That order is, it's behind a lot of fucking bullshit. Legitimately, like it's almost a secondary church inside of the church, and they basically are running things. Fucking, I'm pretty sure that Pope Francis was a Jesuit, and I think his name was a Jesuit. Whatchamacallit?
Pope Francis. No. Pope Francis is our first and only Jesuit pope.
Okay.
And a lot of people see that as as the root of the problem right there with this guy. I can't say that I know that to be true, because you never know what's really going on. You hear this, you hear that, you don't know the truth.
Well, you know what I like, since we're diving into the Catholic Church here.
Oh, yeah.
You know what confused me? First time in 1,500 years a pope stepped down and didn't die. Why?
Yeah, well,
there is something behind Benedict. You know what I mean?
There is. There's clearly something weird there. It is unknown. A real good guy to listen to if you're really. Again, I have a disclaimer on all of this. I don't. Any of these names I gave you, there may be warning signs attached to them, right? Like Michael Voris, he's worth checking out, but there's a warning. He can be a little out there. So too with this. I'm sorry, I lost track. Who we were talking about? What was your question?
Why the fuck the Pope? Why the Pope stepped in? Why the Pope stepped down?
Oh yeah, Benedict. I mean, there is precedent apparently, but it's very unusual and going back many centuries, and hardly has ever happened. And then there are those who believe that he was pressured out to resign, and there are some who think his resignation isn't valid. Like that, there's a contingent that either questions or outright says no, popes can't resign, can't be done. There's no such thing, and therefore Benedict is the only pope, unless of course you're a sedevacantist, in which case he was never pope either. But that's but otherwise, yeah. And there are those who say I can even who say you can't have two popes. I'm sorry, this is a mess.
Well, no,
it's actually very weird. I'll tell you some weird things about Benedict.
Well, no, let's think about this, right? Look at Catholic dogma. The Pope himself is the messenger from God directly, right? So if you're the messenger from God directly, you can't step down. You have to die. And then there's a new election with the cardinals and blah, blah, blah. But you can't step down. You are God's representative. You are the Holy See.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I agree. He can't step down, can he?
Well, okay, I don't want you to overstate, especially for any non-Catholics. Don't overstate the idea that he's not like he can just say anything and it's God's word. We don't think that, right? But yes, he is God's direct vicar on earth. He does hold the earthly authority, the earthly keys to authority, but it doesn't mean he talks to God. He and God converse every day, and God gives him his orders, and he speaks with God's words at all times.
I have another question, real quick.
A human being.
Who does the Pope give confession to?
There's two ways of Pope to do it. I don't know how this Pope does it. Sometimes popes will have a confessor who they only see. They will usually or only see him. I don't know if this pope has such a person or not, because other popes do not utilize a confessor, or utilize one only rarely. Instead, will go to parish priests at random.
Oh, really? Okay, so they do the act of confession still, though. Like, because you know what was just in my head was, wait a minute, the Pope's a Protestant, right? Because he's talking to God directly, not through not through a priest.
He goes to confession. One of the things I once like about Francis, I've seen he publicly will go to confession. Like he'll be at an event, and wherever the priest is there, he'll go to confession there. Yeah, I've seen he not all the time, but he's done it twice that I've seen. Just goes to confession because they're there. But in any case, popes have to. In fact, this is an ancient thing in church teaching. There might be more. The odds of a pope going to hell may be considerably higher than the odds of the average Catholics. One of the reasons popes ask to be prayed for. In fact, there's an old saying by a saint actually that the road to hell seems to be paved with the skulls of bad priests and bishops and popes. So
well, you know, another thing I didn't like, they actually I don't own much jewelry, right? I have my wedding ring and I have my St. Christopher necklace that I wear. So, when the Pope, you know, the church itself, turned around and said Christopher is no longer a saint, I really didn't like that.
That's not what happened, though. They can't declare him not a saint. I could go look for the whole story, which is basically the church maintains this lexicon, this listing called the Calendar of the Saints, and it's very, very long, and it's very, very and it has to be updated periodically, right? And sometimes they go back, and there has been investigations over the last century, plus just general house cleaning. And some popular saints, they were like, well, there's some real question about this. Does this person belong on the calendar or not? We don't know for sure if the stories we have are real. We don't know. There's questions here. So to remove someone from the calendar of saints does not mean they're not a saint, or even that they weren't real. Just that the church no longer has confidence that they've got the real story on this guy. You can still have your St. Christopher medal. You can still have your St. Christopher medal blessed. St. Christopher may have been just as real as we thought, but the church's historical sources are like, we're not sure. It's, you know, the question's been open, and when we look into it, we're not sure this guy was who we thought he was. Not saying that he was a bad guy, just like he may have been like Robin Hood. He may not really have been there.
Maybe he didn't.
But it doesn't.
What is it? Isn't it?
It's not a declaration of anything, right? I mean, they could even be wrong. All they did was remove him because there's from the listing. He's not removed from heaven or from existence.
Well, no, he wasn't excommunicated or anything. But isn't it 3 miracles makes you a saint, right?
No, not exactly. First off, the church holds that there are many, many, many millions, probably billions at this point, of saints. Okay, basically anybody who's made it to heaven is one. And the church will tell you, we don't know who the majority of saints are or were. We'll get to find out in heaven. We don't really know. The church has this calendar of saints, this listing of saints that the church believes with full faith that these persons, everything, all the evidence we see indicates this person was real. These events occurred. This is the life they led. They must be in heaven by now, and therefore worthy. And usually, traditionally, by the way, it took like a century before you could be canonized, which I think is a good idea, and we should go back to. But in any case, because we've been making too many modern saints, it's too many. But regardless, the rules, there is no rule that of a certain number of miracles or whatever, but we want to see them. And the rule, we call it like the rule of thumb. This is pretty much what's expected. If we don't see a certain number of miracles that are really very well authenticated, because without any miracles, there's no, you know, actually theoretically you could be a saint without any miracles attributed to you. In fact, quite a few are. But I mean, you know, usually in making the case in the modern era, yeah, we're going to want to see miracles, and we're going to see them extremely well authenticated. It's not a fast and hard rule is what I'm saying, though, because it's also going to involve the whole life of the person.
Well,
you know, and
well,
it's not
no, and
going to be the grandiosity of the miracle either, you know. So,
well, no, and here's the thing, like, okay, you want to look at modern day saints, Mother Teresa, okay,
might be
two miracles supposedly were proven. There's a third and a fourth that weren't necessarily proven, and the people around her said she was a damn monster. Like, she would beat these kids that she was, quote unquote, helping. I mean, is she really saint worthy? Or did they just do it to put her on a pedestal because it was Mother Teresa?
first off, you're speculating there. I've heard some of these rumors, but some of these rumors are very dodgy. And some of these sources are very dodgy. Sure as hell Christopher Hitchens is, and quite a few of the others. There's a concerted campaign against this woman. So, and there's a real hatred for Catholic saints, especially people like Mother Teresa. So be careful of your sources for whatever you believe before you believe them. Okay, that would be number one. It might be true, though. I'm not saying you're wrong, because there's a lot of people who feel a lot of the problems of the Vatican is also involved over the last half century or so have been way too quick to make people saints. Mother Teresa and John Paul the Great probably should not have been made saints. They were made saints within a decade or two of dying, and that is probably a really bad idea. And that is something we might rue the day on. So let me get it clear. I'm going to defend Mother Teresa and say, you shouldn't just auto believe rumors, because that's terrible. There are people who hate the church and will say anything about it, and who hate people like Mother Teresa with a passion and will say anything about her. Keep that in mind. People will just say shit that's not true. But it's also the case, as I am agreeing with the case, that we have been making saints too quickly, and there might have been people who slipped by and got made saints who shouldn't have. Both of those things can be true. And again, though, what I would point out to you that the fix for addressing these concerns is to have your ass in the pews and being a member of the body of Christ, and consuming the flesh and blood of Jesus Christ that's offered for you for free every day on Sunday will do you a world of good, I'll tell you. And then it's easier to have these conversations and have these fights, because all these concerns that people have, the priests in my parish are serious worried about it. The head priest, he's been there for 20 years, I think. He's been a priest for 30, 40 years. This shit bothers the shit out of him. We got new priests who just started this year. This shit bothers them. This is spiritual warfare we're in the middle of. The church has evil people in it. And so the solution is not to abandon ship. The solution is to armor up and get in there and fight. I mean, if you've abandoned the faith, okay. On the other hand, if anybody else wants to hear why you should be Catholic, talk to me. I converted. I'm a sex abuse victim who converted to Catholicism. Okay, but it wasn't no priest that got after me. They got me in the public schools, where, by the way, it's a lot more common than in Catholic churches. I know that because I investigated it before I became Catholic. Your public school is 100 times more dangerous than any Catholic school or parish. Sorry, but it is. And the real rape haven is in the motherfucking foster homes run by the state, and the juvie prisons. In fact, if you've got anybody here listening in your audience who's from a juvie prison or spent time in foster home, you know what I'm saying is true. The fucking press has been covering that shit for decades. They've been covering up for it all. And it really bothers me. From Catholics, if you got complaints, be Catholic. Come be Catholic, and then complain to your priest, complain to your local parish commission, write a letter to your bishop. Make sure they know that your ass is in the pews on Sundays. That's how you affect change, because popes aren't all powerful. They're just not. Pope Francis may be the worst pope ever, or he may be the most misunderstood pope ever. But
well, no, you have a point, but let me and as we're winding down here, let me pose this to you.
Sure.
I went to my priest before I did give up my faith, which I did. Like I said, I'm pretty much agnostic at this point.
Okay.
I went to him and I said, Father, why exactly, because, okay, my little sister had tuberous sclerosis, which is a disease that's genetic, and she had tumors on her, most of her major organs, and she had, well, about 60 seizures per minute, pretty much one a minute, right? Like, it was bad. And I went to him and went, well, why exactly would God do something like that to an innocent? This is somebody who didn't do anything wrong. They were just born. Why would he do that? And he looked at me and said, I don't know. Maybe she deserved it from a past experience, or maybe just she was meant to be tormented. I just got up and walked out. I couldn't do it. That's where I was like, okay.
What kind of nut job priest would say that? Where the hell were you going to your church?
It was my local church, but yeah, no, I know that was a weird thing for him to say, right? Like, cause I just rose and was like, what? And I just shook my head and walked out.
Well, I don't. That sounds like a weird misunderstanding or miscommunication or whatever to me. Someone ought to speak to that priest, but that doesn't. I don't know. That also seems like a big thing to walk out of church on. You ought to sit and argue with the priest, because that's a dumb answer. That's a dumb fuck answer. I mean, really. So I don't know. Maybe you just got the guy on a bad day. Maybe the guy just a jerk. I don't know. Again, storming out of the church for life because a priest said something you didn't like, though. I don't know, man. I got to think you had some other doubts.
Well, there was a few other moments where I've talked to different preachers, not necessarily a priest, but different preachers, where I've gotten into just debates, and there was this one time I'm talking to a Baptist preacher, right? And I get into a debate. I don't remember what it was about exactly. But he looks at me and goes, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? He's like, go away. I have nothing left to say to you. I'm like, well, fuck you too then.
Wow. Baptists are like that, man. I kind of grew up from a Baptist background, and I'm glad to be Catholic is all I got to say. This has been great. I'm glad you could put up with my crankiness. I hope we can come back and do it again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much for coming on. We're gonna wrap it up here, I think. Pnoid already dipped out. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching. Good night, good luck, and we're out of here.